When I was 5 months pregnant and diagnosed with cancer, Ethan was still carefully taking care of his first love. He said, "Sophia saved my life. I can't just ignore her, you understand, right? In the end, I died." Yet he knelt in front of my corpse, filled with regret, saying he was sorry. At 5 months pregnant, I received my biopsy results, advanced uterine cancer. The doctor advised that I should have an abortion immediately and then undergo a hysterectomy followed by further chemotherapy. I desperately tried to hold back my collapsing emotions, listening to the doctor's instructions with blurry eyes, unable to believe or accept it. Ethan suddenly called me. He said, "I have something to do tonight, don't wait for me. You're pregnant, so remember to rest early." I didn't respond. I knew today was the day his first love, Sophia, returned to the country. "Emily? I'm feeling a bit unwell, can I skip it? I'll try to come back early." His voice was gentle, but he didn't ask what was wrong, and his attitude was resolute. "Ethan, I'm driving, I have to hang up." He wouldn't give me many explanations, it was always up to him, just like our marriage. We were childhood sweethearts. I had liked him for many years, but he had his first love in his heart. I confessed to him countless times growing up, only to be rejected just as many times, until his first love married someone else, and he finally settled down and married me. After we got married, I tried hard to play the role of a good wife, doing everything I could to please him. Over 3 years, I felt his heart gradually opening to me, especially after I got pregnant. The usually cold and distant Ethan would take the initiative to care for me, preparing gifts for my birthday or important holidays. Our relationship became sweeter over time, but then, fate played a cruel joke on me. I got cancer, and the child I had been so eager to have needed to be aborted. The husband I cherished with my life was now running toward his first love, leaving his pregnant wife behind. That night, I was awakened by a nightmare. In my dream, I lay on a cold operating table, the doctor covered in blood as he removed my child from my womb. At that moment, I seemed to hear the child's pitiful cries. I was drenched in sweat, looking at the empty, cold space beside me. His comeback early was just a brush off. I tried to calm myself and took out my phone, opening WeChat to distract myself. At 11 p.m., Sophia posted on her moments, "After all these years, nothing beats home." She took a selfie facing the camera, and in a dim corner of the photo, I saw a pair of hands tightly intertwined. Even though one hand was only partially visible, I recognized it at a glance. Because on his index finger, there was a tuft of white spot, just like Ethan's. At 2 a.m., Ethan came back, moving quietly, afraid of waking me. When he went to take a shower, I intentionally turned over. "Sorry, did I wake you?" he said apologetically, his voice still gentle. "Did Sophia come back?" I asked. "Yeah." Ethan's voice was heavy, and the next moment he just said, "It's late, you should sleep. Can you not see her anymore?" Ethan was momentarily taken aback, then spoke with some impatience. "What are you worried about? Don't you know better? Isn't that a bit unreasonable? Holding hands is just a game? That's just a game. Emily, don't blow this out of proportion in the middle of the night." How ironic. "I'm sleeping on the couch tonight." Ethan slammed the door shut. It was the first time he had gotten angry with me since I got pregnant. All because of Sophia. Because of his embarrassment and anger. After that brief argument, my life with Ethan continued as usual. He was busy. Always busy. I went to every prenatal checkup by myself. So, when I went for my 4-month checkup and found out I had a uterine tumor, he had no idea. I habitually considered his feelings, not wanting him to worry. I hid the truth from him until I was certain, only to end up feeling like a joke. Today, I went to the hospital again. I asked the doctor, "Is it possible not to have an abortion?" "No. Can I wait until after the baby is born to have the surgery?" "Your condition can't wait that long." "How long can I wait?" 1 to 2 months, but it's best to do it now. I want to wait a bit longer. I couldn't bear to part with the only child I could have in my life. I wanted to spend as much time with him as possible, even if it was just one more day. I wanted to wait, Ethan. After leaving the hospital, I called Ethan. Can you get off work on time today? What's up? He asked. It's been a while since we had dinner together. Okay. He agreed. This meant our brief Cold War was over. Just like every time before, I was the one who compromised in the end. Ethan came home on time. I made his favorite dishes, and we quietly ate dinner together. Suddenly, Ethan's phone rang, interrupting what I wanted to say. He got up to take a look, then walked out onto the balcony to answer the call. 5 minutes later, he returned, eating faster than before. I have to step out for a bit. Is it Sophia? No, Ethan's voice was heavy. Stop being paranoid, okay? I just want you to spend more time with me and the baby. If you're feeling bored during the pregnancy, you can have your parents come stay with you, or you can go to your parents' house. They can take care of you while I'm busy at work. I'll feel better knowing you're not alone. I remained silent, a bitter smile on my lips, sad yet ridiculous. He didn't even look at me. He turned and walked towards the door. Let me know when you've decided. I'll find time to take you there. Then he hurriedly put on his shoes and left in big strides. I actually saw it just now. At the moment the phone rang, the name Sophia was displayed on the screen, hastily concealed. Only Sophia could make Ethan go against his own nature and lie for her. What I had wanted to say just then was, Ethan, can you stay with me for 2 more months? Just 2 months, okay? But I would never say it again. That night, Ethan returned before 10 p.m. After taking a shower, he lay down beside me and wrapped his arms around me as I pretended to sleep. He smelled fresh from his shower, his body warm against my back, but my heart suddenly felt dirty and cold. The next day, we had breakfast together. He complimented me, saying, "The porridge you made is still delicious." I was born into a good family and spoiled by my parents. Ethan came from a well-off family too. Our marriage could be considered a match made in heaven. But I had become increasingly humble for him. I, who had never touched a drop of water before, learned to cook all kinds of dishes for him. He was such a picky eater, yet I somehow managed to cure his habit of not eating vegetables. In the future, make me an extra bowl to take to the office for lunch, Ethan said casually. Just porridge for lunch? I asked. My stomach hasn't been great these past few days. Porridge will feel better, he explained lightly. Oh, okay. I made porridge for Ethan every day, packed it for him to take to work. These days, Ethan had become a bit more proactive with me, coming home on time every day. I didn't know if he had truly let go of Sophia or if moral obligations forced him back to my side. In these last days, I chose to forget the past. But just when I was about to open my heart to him again, I walked in on him in his office, gazing tenderly at Sophia while she ate the nutritious porridge I had painstakingly prepared for him. I looked down at my 5-month pregnant belly and thought about waking up at 5 a.m. every morning, compromising for him time and time again. Suddenly, it felt a bit ridiculous, and I couldn't help but laugh. Seeing me at that moment, Ethan's eyes were clearly filled with panic. He approached me, wanting to explain, but opened his mouth without saying anything. Emily, Sophia, on the other hand, greeted me graciously. I was just looking for an opportunity to thank you. Thank you for making me the nutritious porridge every day. My stomach has improved a lot in just a few days. I wasn't crying from the pain like I was that night. So that night, Sophia had a stomachache and Ethan rushed to her. It turned out that Ethan's sudden closeness to me was only because of his guilty conscience. I realized that between the 3 of us, I was still the outsider. Did I say something wrong? Sophia asked cautiously, noticing my expression, her eyes glistening with tears. She looked weak and innocent, evoking a natural protective instinct. Her life had indeed been quite unfortunate. I met Sophia when she transferred to our class in the 2nd year of junior high. She was timid and insecure, always showing signs of bruises, which I later learned were from being beaten by her alcoholic father. Later, she somehow became the target of bullying at school, and Ethan saved her and fell in love with her. Childhood sweethearts can't compete with fate. I suddenly became the third party. But in the end, Sophia still married someone else and went abroad. She said she wanted to distance herself from her family of origin as far away as possible. I'm sorry, Sophia apologized to me, always looking to please others and seeming timid. It was as if everyone bullied her and she could only compromise with the world. I was tired of playing along with Sophia. Moreover, I had never won even once back then. I walked straight into the office, picked up the half-eaten nutritious porridge and poured it over Sophia's head. Ah, Sophia screamed, her face losing color. Emily, what are you doing? Ethan shouted angrily, roughly pushing me away. He probably forgot that I was 5 months pregnant. Or maybe he hadn't forgotten. He just didn't care, his heart entirely occupied by Sophia. I leaned against the wall, suppressing the pain in my abdomen, and watched as Ethan tenderly cared for Sophia. How my heart gradually turned from deep love to icy shards. I walked past them coldly. I could hear Sophia sobbing, continuously murmuring, Ethan, don't worry about me, Emily is pregnant. You should check on her. I'm really fine, yet her hands clutched Ethan's clothes tightly. My patience for their kindness and tolerance finally shattered. I had initially thought just 2 more months and then they could be together. Now, I regretted it. I wanted Ethan to feel lifelong regret. I wanted this pair of scoundrels to get their due retribution. I went to the hospital. Ethan's shove hadn't caused me much harm, but the doctor urged me to have the surgery soon. When I returned home, Ethan was sitting on the sofa. On the coffee table, there was a bouquet of fresh flowers and a chocolate lava cake that I loved. When he saw me, he got up and walked over with the bouquet, saying, Emily, I sincerely apologize for what happened today. I initially intended to tell you that the porridge was for Sophia, but I didn't want you to overthink it, so I kept it from you. I smiled faintly. At that moment, my heart was like still water. I suddenly couldn't remember the excitement I felt every time I received a little gift from him. But I still accepted it, saying, it's beautiful. I also bought you your favorite cake. He placed the cake in front of me. I took a bite, and it was overwhelmingly sweet. After getting pregnant, I had hardly eaten sweets. Ethan thought I had forgiven him. In his eyes, as long as he was a little nicer to me, I would be so grateful I'd be moved to tears. After you left today, Sophia cried for a long time and said she upset you, Ethan said without a hint of restraint. I continued eating the cake, revealing no emotion. You know her background, she's always been sensitive and fears offending people, he continued. I didn't respond. I'm worried that because you were angry today, she'll hold a grudge. Why don't you call Sophia and let her know? Is that okay? Ethan looked at me as if it was a matter of course. I lifted my gaze to Ethan. Perhaps he noticed something off in my demeanor. He hurriedly explained and assured me, Emily, this really has nothing to do with Sophia. It was my fault in handling things poorly. I promise I'll do better in the future. I could see a hint of tension and awkwardness in his eyes. Could it be that in my lifetime, I'd finally see Ethan in such a submissive state? Shouldn't I be happy? How will you make it better? Will you never see her again? Ethan hesitated for a second, and then his voice rose slightly. Emily, you should understand. Sophia once saved my life. How could I just ignore her? I laughed. When did Sophia ever save his life? She's back now, alone, and was abused by her ex-husband abroad. Her health is poor, and she has mild depression. I'm the only one she has. So you think of yourself as her savior now? I mocked. Emily, when did you become so aggressive? How many times do I have to say that I'm just taking care of Sophia? I don't have any of the dirty thoughts you think I do. And what about me? Don't I need care? I asked calmly. You're fine, what do you need care for? Besides, don't you have your parents? I suggested you go to your parents' house, but you refused. I stared at Ethan's familiar yet strangely distant face. Ethan, whose husband are you, really? Do you even remember that I'm pregnant? Do you know that the child inside me might not survive? Ethan looked at my agitation, and the shock in his eyes quickly turned to indifference. Emily, you're being so selfish. To prevent me from caring for Sophia, you're actually fabricating such lies, cursing your own child. I'm telling the truth. Even if it's true, it only means that the child isn't destined for us. Even if I'm with you, it won't matter, Ethan said coldly. I just looked at him. Again and again, he crossed my bottom line. Don't look at me like that. Emily, I'm trying to live well with you. I don't want you to make this home a mess. Ethan spoke each word slowly. At the end of the day, today you poured porridge over Sophia's head, that's your fault. Apologizing to her is reasonable. Ethan, do you think one day you'll regret treating me like this? I asked him. Emily, I've been good enough to you, Ethan said firmly. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here in this house right now. So Ethan meant that because he still felt some responsibility, he would continue living with me, otherwise, he would have been with Sophia long ago. I'll call you. After you apologize to Sophia, we'll consider this matter settled. In the future, let's not bring it up again. I'm still your husband, and you're still my wife. Our marriage continues, he said generously. Then if I don't apologize, does that mean our marriage ends here? I asked Ethan calmly. The anger in Ethan's eyes was hard to conceal. Emily, do you really want to force me like this? Isn't it about wanting a reasonable excuse to be with Sophia, allowing you to abandon your pregnant wife without any guilt and feel at ease with another woman? I'm giving you that excuse now. Shouldn't you be happy? You're really going to drain all our feelings away, Ethan said, his face darkening. Ethan, aren't you? Ethan glared at me fiercely and then slammed the door as he left. I watched Ethan leave coldly, feeling utterly desolate. That night, Sophia posted on her social media again. The photo was taken from her living room, capturing the round moon in the sky. In the photo, there was a somewhat indistinct silhouette standing on the balcony. In the dim night, you wouldn't notice unless you looked closely. Sophia loved playing these games, scheming. Her caption read, "May we all be together for a long time, sharing the beauty of the moon even from thousands of miles away." In the end, I still messaged Sophia, "Let's meet tomorrow." She replied almost immediately, "Okay." The next day, we met at a cafe. This wasn't our first private meeting. I didn't expect I'd come back, did you? Sophia said, sipping her coffee, looking high and mighty. Indeed, I didn't. Since I'm back, you should divorce Ethan, Sophia said as if it were only natural. On what grounds? Because Ethan has always liked me, Sophia said, smiling triumphantly. Her words left me speechless. I've never understood why you cling to Ethan. If he liked you, would it have come to me? You're pretty, and you come from a wealthy family. There are so many good men in the world. What's so special about Ethan? Sophia's face was full of sarcasm. He's nothing. Why are you coming back to him? Because I have no choice, Sophia said in front of me, completely dismissive of any need to pretend. In her eyes, I had never been her equal. I'm a divorced woman without any family background. The only one who doesn't mind me is Ethan. I don't want to ruin your marriage, but what can I do? As soon as I beckon, Ethan comes running like a dog. It takes two to tango. Did you ever like Ethan? I asked her. If I liked him, would I be marrying another man? All that talk about distancing myself from my family and going abroad is just a cover-up. It's just because that man has more money than Ethan, Sophia replied calmly. You've known this all along, haven't you? You knew back in school. I had known. I had kept it from Ethan to protect his pride. At this moment, it was genuinely getting more and more ridiculous. Unfortunately, Ethan is blind, he can't tell who is genuinely good to him. But fortunately, this time I'm determined to be with him. So Emily, just let go, you can't compete with me. Sophia had that kind of confidence that she could have Ethan anytime she wanted. But she didn't understand that people can change, especially when it comes to someone who is close to dying. Is that so? I said coldly, looking at her smug face. Have you forgotten that I'm pregnant? Sophia's expression changed in an instant. Let's not even mention that the law doesn't allow for divorce during pregnancy. Do you really think Ethan would want to ignore societal norms and moral condemnation to abandon me for you? Sophia's face turned frosty. Or do you think that after I give birth, Ethan would abandon his wife for you? I continued to taunt. Sophia, I won't deny Ethan's feelings for you. It's just that this time you came back a bit too late. Sophia gritted her teeth, rendered speechless at that moment. I'll take care of the bill, I called the waiter. After paying, I said to Sophia, I'll cover your share, just consider it compensation for not being able to satisfy Ethan during my pregnancy. With that, I left in a carefree manner under Sophia's furious gaze. Once I was out of her sight, I took a deep breath. I didn't feel as calm as I had portrayed. I trembled as I pulled a voice recorder from my bag. But this wasn't enough. I needed more. I would definitely make Ethan wish he were dead. Once home, I called my best friend, Grace. Grace and I were classmates since middle school. To be precise, she was a classmate of both Ethan and Sophia. She had witnessed our melodramatic love triangle and had often urged me to let go of Ethan, saying that he wasn't worth it. But I was like a madwoman when it came to Ethan. Despite the many better men around me throughout my life, I only loved him. Perhaps it was stubbornness. I was unwilling to accept that after all these years, I had nothing to show for it. At least now I was finally ready to let go. Are you about to celebrate your birthday? I asked Grace. You remember me? I thought once you got involved with that dog, Ethan, you'd forgotten all about me, Grace replied with a hint of disappointment. Grace was a strong woman, always busy and still single. She didn't have a stable, long-term relationship and looked down on marriage, valuing her independence. So she couldn't understand why I was willing to lose myself for Ethan. I need you to help me with something. Go ahead, she said. I explained my plan to her. She couldn't believe it. You can't be serious. Aren't you tired of Sophia already? You want me to invite her to my birthday party? I'll explain later. I really can't understand you, Grace said helplessly, but she eventually relented. All right, next Wednesday night. I'll send you the address. Thanks. Emily, you really can't give up your self-respect for a man, Grace said before hanging up. This time, it wouldn't happen. It wouldn't happen again. On Grace's birthday, I went, visibly pregnant. Sure enough, Sophia was there, along with many classmates. Some classmates teased, Grace, it's rare for you to have a birthday party and invite old classmates. Aren't you always too busy to attend reunions? Grace had a great personality, she graciously responded. It's precisely because I couldn't attend the reunion that I wanted to find an opportunity for everyone to get together. Please, everyone, don't hold back, eat and enjoy yourselves. Grace is so generous. After a round of applause, one classmate saw me and asked, Where's Ethan? Why did you come alone? Are you okay coming here with such a big belly? Ethan had something to do today and couldn't make it. They're all old classmates, what's there to worry about? I answered with a smile. Ethan really isn't being considerate. With so many classmates here, he didn't show up, the classmate grumbled. Little did they know, I hadn't even told Grace to inform Ethan. Ever since our argument, Ethan and I had been in a cold war. As long as I didn't back down, Ethan would maintain this state. Just before the meal, Ethan suddenly arrived. Everyone looked at him in surprise, except for me. You said you weren't coming, one classmate asked Ethan. Ethan didn't respond. Sophia quickly stood up and shyly said, It was me. I texted Ethan to ask if he couldn't make it. I told him the old classmates all missed him. When Grace saw Sophia acting like this, her face fell. I quickly grabbed Grace's arm. Grace gave me a look of exasperation. Sophia is really charming, one text and she summoned our busy Ethan. Realizing something was off, they quickly changed the subject. Come on, Ethan, sit here. They cleared the spot next to me. Ethan didn't refuse and sat down beside me. His face was dark, and he coldly asked, Why didn't you tell me it was Grace's birthday? Didn't you come anyway? I retorted. Emily, you look really bad like this, he said. I scoffed, You're not looking too great yourself. Ethan was about to blow up, but the classmates next to him urged him to drink. He held back and left me hanging. From start to finish, he didn't say another word to me. I didn't care. I got up to go to the restroom, deliberately taking my time there. Sophia walked in, glanced around, and, confirming no one was around, revealed her true colors. You see? You can't call out to Ethan, but I just need to lift a finger and he comes running. But Ethan is still sitting next to me, I said nonchalantly while washing my hands. Sophia's expression changed drastically. After washing my hands and wiping my fingers, I leisurely walked past Sophia. Suddenly, I felt someone push me hard from behind. The restroom floor was too slippery and I fell flat on my back with a loud thud. As the pain spread, a warm trickle flowed from between my legs. Sophia's panicked scream echoed in the restroom. Soon, many people were drawn in by her voice, including Ethan. He glanced at the stunned Sophia, then looked at me lying in a pool of blood on the floor. He knelt down beside me and lifted me up, shouting at the others, "Quick! Call an ambulance, now." Grace hurriedly dialed for an ambulance. Ethan carried me out of the restaurant. All the classmates followed us outside to wait for the ambulance. As Sophia cried, she said, "It's all my fault. If I had just paid a little more attention to Emily, she wouldn't have slipped on the floor. If anything happens to Emily or the baby, I'll be a sinner for all eternity." The more she spoke, the more hysterical she became, crying even more tragically than someone in actual pain. "It's not your fault." Ethan's voice came from above, somewhat suppressed. "Emily was just careless." If it weren't for the excruciating pain, I might have managed a sarcastic smile. "But she's right in front of me." "Emily, I'm so sorry, I'm really sorry." Sophia kept apologizing in my ear. I was genuinely afraid that if I died, she would block my way to reincarnation. Fortunately, the ambulance arrived. Ethan carried me into the vehicle and, as he got in, he reminded everyone, "Keep an eye on Sophia. She's very sensitive and can easily get trapped in her own mind. Don't let her be alone." "Ethan, for God's sake, are you going or not?" Grace, who had already boarded the ambulance, shouted at Ethan. Only then did he follow her inside. The ambulance rushed toward the hospital. The doctor quickly examined me. Ethan stood beside me, nervously asking, "How is she? Is the baby going to be okay?" "There's quite a bit of bleeding, it's hard to say. We'll have to wait until we get to the hospital to know for sure," the doctor said. Ethan nodded silently and didn't ask any more questions. Grace was beside herself, her eyes turning red with worry. "Emily, how could you be so careless knowing you're pregnant?" I was in so much pain that I couldn't say a word. But at that moment, I still turned my gaze toward Ethan. Grace couldn't stand my lovesick expression but still obliged my wish. "Ethan, Emily wants to talk to you." Ethan hurried over to my side, looking at me. He was probably startled by the sight of my bleeding self. The concern and anxiety on his face seemed genuine. "Don't be afraid. I'm here, nothing will happen." "Ethan, do you still want this baby?" I asked him, struggling to get the words out. Ethan hesitated for a moment. So, he really did have doubts. When I first found out I was pregnant, I could clearly see the joy in his eyes. After all, we were at the age when we should be having children. But now, he hesitated. "Don't think about it too much, everything will be fine," Ethan said, not answering me directly but trying to comfort me. "If I lose this baby, you can be with Sophia without any worries." "What nonsense are you talking about?" Grace interrupted. "You're in this condition, so stop thinking about such ridiculous things. Be quiet and rest, you need to save your strength for the surgery later." I kept my gaze on Ethan. Ethan had to deal with me, saying, "That's not going to happen. Since I married you, I will take responsibility for you. Just don't speak, rest well." However, when the ambulance arrived at the hospital, Ethan turned to leave. "Ethan, can you act like a decent person?" I heard Grace's roar that she couldn't hold back. At that moment, I was being lifted down from the ambulance. The doctors and nurses pushed me toward the emergency room. But Ethan turned to walk in the opposite direction. "I'll be right back. I just called Emily's parents, they're on their way to the hospital," Ethan said quickly. "Where the hell are you going? Your wife is like this, and you still want to go somewhere?" Grace grabbed Ethan, not letting him leave. I found it somewhat amusing, laughing until tears came out, not from sadness, but from pain. The pain in my abdomen was so intense that I had the first impulse to want to die. Just now, Lu Chang called to say that Sophia's emotions are very unstable. She's been blaming herself for Emily's fall and is on the highway, refusing to go back. She nearly got hit by a car a few times. I'm going to take her home and settle her down before I come back, Ethan explained. That's not allowed. Grace shouted. What does Sophia have to do with you? If she wants to die, that's her business. Emily is your wife, you have to stay by her side now. Grace, that's between us as a couple, so mind your own business. Ethan was clearly angry, raising his voice at Grace. Do you really think Sophia is such a good person? Back then, she was deliberately trying to seduce you. All that talk about bullying in school was just her acting. Enough. I don't need you to tell me what kind of person Sophia is. Ethan didn't listen to what Grace was saying at all. If you want to leave, go ahead. Grace probably didn't want to waste any more time on Ethan. As long as Emily agrees to let you go, I'll let you go. Ethan gritted his teeth and rushed in front of me, grabbing my hand. I could see that his eyes were reddening with urgency. In that moment, all I wanted was to break free from his grip. For some reason, I suddenly felt dirty at that moment. Emily, I'll be back soon. It won't take long, Ethan said urgently. Your parents will be here shortly, you'll be fine. How do you know? I'll be fine? I asked him painfully, holding back the hurt in my body. And that Sophia will definitely be in trouble. You're in the hospital with so many doctors around, you'll definitely be fine. But Sophia only has me. Only he has her? Ethan, do you know that the place with the highest number of deaths is actually in a hospital? I said softly. You won't die, it's just a minor surgery. Even if you lose the baby, it's fine. What if I don't want you to go, Emily? Can you be a little more magnanimous? I told you before, Sophia saved my life, I can't just ignore her. If something happens to her, I'll never have peace for the rest of my life. Ethan was starting to lose his temper. He had lost patience with me. Even as I was being taken to the emergency room. If I die, will you have peace? Don't push me like this. Ethan said, his voice both agitated and determined. No matter what happens today, I have to see Sophia first. You've made your decision, what can I say? Just don't regret it, Ethan. I'll never regret it. Ethan didn't linger any longer, even running away. He was so impatient, Ethan left quickly. Grace's eyes were red with anger. She looked at me, feeling both angry and pained, and said, how could you just let him go? Can't you see, if you can't keep a heart, what's the use of keeping a person? Can't you at least annoy that couple of dogs? Grace was the type of person who would think, if you won't let me have it easy, I won't let you have it easy either. He won't be fine, I said. But if I kept him here, and if something happened to Sophia, Ethan would hate me. And vice versa. The medical staff pushed me to the operating room door. Grace held my hand and kept saying, Emily, don't be afraid. I'll wait for you outside. There are plenty of men in this world. That dog Ethan really isn't worth it. Grace, I have something to give you. I struggled to pull a USB drive from my clothes. What's this? Just take it. I didn't say anything more. But handing it to Grace made me feel relieved. Grace tightly clutched the USB drive in her hand, looking at me with red eyes. I was pushed into the operating room, calmly looking at the bright surgical lights above me, as if I suddenly had a premonition. A premonition that my time was running out. In fact, when I was diagnosed with late-stage uterine cancer, I had asked the doctor, if I terminate the pregnancy, have my uterus removed, and undergo chemotherapy, can I live a long time? The answer was a no. The doctor said it varied from person to person. Some people might live a few more years, while others might just die on the operating table. I was the latter. In my daze, I heard the doctor's somewhat nervous voice, probably trying to provide me with emergency care. But I was already feeling the external world fade away. At the moment I completely lost consciousness, I wondered, if Ethan knew I was really going to die here, would he regret it? Ethan's POV. Emily accidentally fell while pregnant, and I took her to the hospital, but I got a call from a classmate saying that Sophia was emotionally unstable. Sophia came from a broken family, which made her introverted, reclusive, timid, sensitive, and suspicious. But Emily was different. Emily came from a wealthy family with a harmonious home. she would never have thoughts of ending her life. Without my company, she could still receive a lot of care and love, so I never felt that I should spend more time on her. Sophia needed me more. But I never expected that illness and death existed in this world. I didn't think that Emily would really die on that operating table. At that moment, I was comforting Sophia at home, trying to calm her uncontrollable emotions. She cried all night, and I felt heartbroken, almost forgetting that Emily was still in the emergency room until I received Grace's call. On the other end of the line, Grace's hoarse voice said, "Ethan, congratulations, the baby is gone." In that moment, my heart suddenly ached. I had thought the baby might not make it. When Emily was taken to the hospital, she had lost too much blood, there was no way to save it. I didn't even know whether I was hoping for the baby to be there or not. I knew very well that if the baby were gone, I would have more courage to divorce Emily and then naturally be with Sophia. Though Sophia didn't say it, I could feel that she had come back this time to reconcile with me. So when Emily asked me in the ambulance if I still wanted this baby, I didn't give her a direct answer. Now that it was really gone, my heart felt somewhat empty. "Are you happy? Now you can be with Sophia without any worries." Grace's voice was filled with obvious sarcasm. "The baby isn't gone because of me. Grace, I know you're a good friend to Emily, but our issues are between husband and wife. Outsiders shouldn't interfere." I replied, not backing down. "Husband and wife?" Grace scoffed. In her mocking tone, I seemed to hear a hint of choking. "I really don't know what Emily sees in you, Ethan. Deep down, do you really deserve her?" "Enough, Grace. You don't need to judge my relationship with Emily. The baby is gone, I know how to comfort her." "No need." Grace said, "Emily doesn't need you anymore." "Grace." I was really angry. What right does she have to interfere in my relationship with Emily? Emily is dead. I froze. For a moment, I thought I had misheard. It felt like a sudden thunderbolt out of a clear sky. "Ethan, you're free now." Grace hung up the phone. But I stood there, phone in hand, my whole body rigid. An indescribable feeling washed over me, pain, a piercing pain that filled my entire being. It can't be true. How could Emily be dead? Medicine is so advanced now, isn't this just a miscarriage? "Ethan, what's wrong?" Sophia came out to the balcony, concerned. "Why are you crying? Did something big happen? Am I crying?" At that moment, I realized tears had started flowing from my eyes. I turned and was about to leave. "Ethan, where are you going?" Sophia hugged me tightly. "Didn't you promise to stay with me tonight? If you leave, I'll be scared," she said, sounding pitiful. I felt a strange urge to protect Sophia. She somehow made me want to drop everything and take care of her. But at that moment, I was just irritated, feeling like she was clinging to me too much. I pushed her away and said, "Emily is dead." Sophia froze too. Like me, she couldn't believe it. I walked quickly out of Sophia's house and headed to the hospital. On the way, I thought maybe Grace was just trying to get a rise out of me. After all, she is Emily's best friend, and I hadn't treated Emily well. Until I saw Emily's body. She lay on the hospital bed, her face pale. Beside her was a mangled, bloody fetus, fully formed but gone. A wave of overwhelming sadness hit me, catching me off guard and almost breaking me. How could she be dead? How could Emily be dead? I stepped closer to touch her. Before I could even get close, Emily's father punched me hard in the face. But in that moment, I felt no pain. The hurt in my heart overshadowed everything else. Emily's father kept cursing me, calling me heartless, saying I owed her. Yes, I owe Emily. So, Emily, wake up, please wake up and let me make it up to you, okay? I fell to my knees heavily. I never imagined Emily's death would hit me this hard, that it would give me a sense of the world crashing down. I clearly didn't love her. I always thought the one I loved was Sophia. Sophia had even saved my life. We were two souls in love, while my relationship with Emily was just settling. But now she's dead. Why does it hurt so much? Why do I feel so terrible? I knelt in front of Emily, grief and guilt threatening to consume me entirely. I don't know how long I knelt in the hospital. Emily's parents took her and the fetus away. They wouldn't let me follow, they said I didn't deserve it, that I would dirty Emily's path to rebirth. I don't know when Sophia came to my side, she hugged me tightly, crying. She said she couldn't stand to see me torment myself like this. She said Emily's death had nothing to do with me. Yes. Emily's death was just an accident. It wasn't my fault. Even if I had stayed in the hospital, Emily would still have died. But why did I still feel like the worst person in the world? Why did it hurt so much I could hardly breathe? Sophia pulled me up from the ground. Ethan, stop torturing yourself. She's gone now. We can move on. Sophia kept trying to persuade me. Scumbag and a shameless woman, and you think we can move on? Came Grace's voice from behind. Sophia turned to her and said loudly, Grace, Ethan is suffering enough, can you just stop? If anyone is to blame, it's me. Take it out on me, just let Ethan be. Fine, I'll take it out on you, Grace replied without hesitation. Then suddenly, the quiet hallway echoed with the sound of Sophia and Emily's conversation. My body trembled visibly. At the sound of Emily's voice, I shook all over. I turned to look at Grace. The voice was coming from her phone. It wasn't that Emily was still alive. I listened to the conversation between Emily and Sophia. I didn't have many emotions left, just a deep sense of pain. But as I continued to listen, I started to realize something was off. Sophia began to panic, shouting at Grace, What are you playing? Turn it off. Turn it off. Scared? Grace laughed. Didn't you say to take it out on you? You have to turn it off. This isn't real, turn it off. Sophia rushed forward to grab Grace's phone. The two of them got entangled. Ethan, if you want to know the truth, then pull this bitch Sophia off me. Grace shouted at me. I got up from the ground and roughly pulled Sophia away. Let me go, Ethan. This isn't real, it isn't real. Sophia was agitated, her face flushed, her expression twisted. This was a side of Sophia I had never seen before. I had always thought she was weak, that she could be blown over by a breeze. It's not real, what are you afraid of? Grace retorted at Sophia. I don't want Ethan to misunderstand me. Stop trying to stir trouble between us. Turn it off. Turn it off. Sophia screamed. Grace sneered, completely ignoring the panicking Sophia. She looked at me and said, Listen closely to what Sophia says next. My throat tightened as I held my breath. I could clearly hear the voice coming from Grace's phone. If I like him, can I still marry another man? All this talk about getting away from my family, going abroad, it's all fake. It's just because that man has more money than Ethan. You've known it for a long time, haven't you? Didn't you know it back in school? Ethan's blind. He can't tell who truly cares for him. But luckily, I've decided to be with him this time. So Emily, let go, you can't win. The voice ended. The hallway suddenly fell eerily silent. I probably looked terrifying. I stared at Sophia, my eyes bloodshot. No, it's not like that. Ethan, believe me, this isn't my true voice. I was just trying to get back at Emily. She wouldn't let you go, so I said all that. Slap. I slapped Sophia hard across the face. She fell to the ground, staring at me in disbelief, tears welling up in her eyes, looking pitiful. In the past, I could hardly see Sophia's grievances. I couldn't bear to see her shed a single tear. Yet at that moment, I suddenly felt so disgusted, so sick to my stomach. Can't you handle it? Grace looked at us as if watching a joke, saying, There's something even more explosive. Want to see? I clenched my fists. At that moment, I didn't want to, didn't even dare to, but I forced myself to nod, pushing myself to tear open those cruel truths, raw and bloody. See for yourself. Grace handed me her phone. I looked at the video on the screen and pressed play. On the screen, Emily and Sophia were in the bathroom, just before Emily's accident tonight. I watched Emily's vibrant figure, saw her alive, and my vision blurred. Suddenly, Sophia shoved Emily, who was walking in front of her with a pregnant belly, completely unguarded. And just like that, I saw Emily fall to the ground. I caught a glimpse of Sophia's sinister smile, even as she let out a frightened scream a moment later. Ha! I laughed. I laughed so hard that tears came out. It was a madness to the extreme. Sophia seemed frightened by my expression. She got up, saw the video in my hand, and her face instantly turned pale, continuously shouting, "No, it's not like that. Ethan, let me explain. No. It was Emily, she set me up. How could there be this video unless she designed it? What's the matter? You did something wrong and got caught red-handed, and it's someone else's fault? Sophia, do you really have no shame?" Grace spat out through clenched teeth. Ethan, believe me. Ah. I pushed Sophia away. I found her utterly disgusting. I've sent you everything. Whether or not you want to report it, that's up to you. After all, Emily never intended for you to know the whole truth. If I hadn't found this evidence on her, she might have hidden it from you for the rest of her life. I clenched my fists, feeling an unbearable pain in my chest. It hurt so much, I felt like I was going to explode. Let me tell you 3 things. First, during that school camping trip when you accidentally fell into the river, it was Emily who risked everything to save you. When you woke up, you insisted it was Sophia. If you don't believe me, ask the classmates who were with you that day, everyone saw it. Of course, how could you ask? In your mind, the one who would sacrifice her life for you is only Sophia. Second, Sophia's bullying at school was meant to catch your attention. You probably don't know, but the one bullying Sophia was her best friend, and they still keep in touch closely. Just check her phone for the chat history, and you'll see. Third, Emily found out a month ago that she had late-stage cervical cancer. She hid it from you, afraid you'd worry. The doctor suggested she terminate the pregnancy for treatment, but because they would need to remove her uterus and she couldn't conceive again, she insisted on having your child, even at the cost of her life. But in the end, it was a case of 2 lives lost. Grace looked at me coldly, as if she were looking at a fool. She said, "Ethan, in all my life, I've never seen someone more foolish than you." Then she turned and left. She probably thought someone like me wasn't worth her time. Someone as foolish as me didn't deserve anyone's time. But Emily, she gave her whole life for me. I turned my gaze to Sophia. Looking at her ugly, distorted face, I picked up my phone and dialed a number. "Hello, police station? I want to report a murder, deliberate murder." "No." Sophia frantically grabbed my phone. "Ethan, don't call the police. I beg you, don't call. I can't go to jail. I can't. Ethan, everything I did was for our future. I love you. Now that Emily is gone, we can be together." Sophia couldn't finish her sentence. Because I suddenly tightened my grip around her neck. Her entire face turned crimson, her eyes filled with terror. She tried to push me away but was powerless. Her face was filled with panic and fear. "When you plotted against me, when you pushed Emily down, did you ever think about being scared? Did you ever think this day would come? Did you ever think you'd face retribution? Sophia, we should go to join Emily and that child who never had the chance to be born." I killed Sophia, slowly watching as she lost her breath in my hands, giving up her struggle completely. Looking at Sophia lying motionless on the ground, I felt no fear, not a hint of sadness. Only a sense of revenge. I felt liberated. Later, the police took me away. Murder charges, it should be the death penalty. I really deserve to die. Extra, Emily's part. I didn't die. On the operating table, I lost a lot of blood, teetering on the brink of death, yet the doctors brought me back. I came back, but it felt like I lost half my life. The baby, of course, was gone. Perhaps, he just came at the wrong time. After I came out of the operating room, I had my parents, Grace, and the medical staff help me put on an act. I only said I wanted to completely sever ties with Ethan, not mentioning anything else. They were very supportive of me. Then came the scene of Ethan kneeling before my body. After that, my parents accompanied me to the hospital room. Grace left. I knew what she was going to do. With Grace's personality, there was no way she would let Ethan off the hook so easily. I could even guess how guilty and regretful she would make Ethan feel. This was our unspoken understanding. It could also be interpreted as everything being part of my intentional design. Just like when I filmed the video of Sophia pushing me down. That day, I intentionally said I was pregnant, knowing Sophia would surely try to find a way to get rid of the child in my belly. This child was not meant to be, and I used it to complete Sophia. So I went to the bathroom and secretly placed a hidden camera in a corner that could capture the whole scene, waiting for the fish to bite. Sure enough, Sophia made her move. I lost a lot of blood and was rushed to the hospital. I even anticipated that Sophia would find a way to get Ethan to leave. Everything was part of my plan. I gave the USB drive to Grace, who would check it out immediately. In addition to the audio recordings, I also told Grace that I had a video of Sophia framing me on my phone, which could be downloaded from the camera app. Grace would know exactly what to do next. Later, I heard that Ethan killed Sophia and was arrested. I wasn't the least bit surprised. With Ethan's personality, how could he endure being deceived like that? Coupled with his guilt over me and the child, he would choose such an extreme way out. It was somewhat expected. It could also be considered one form of revenge. After that, I was transferred to the most authoritative cancer hospital in the country, where I underwent surgery and chemotherapy again. Over the course of a year of treatment, the doctors said my condition had been somewhat controlled. If I took good care of myself, living another 10 or 8 years, or even as long as a normal person, was not impossible. When I returned from the hospital, I heard that Ethan had been sentenced. He wasn't given the death penalty, instead, he received a life sentence. A life sentence might be worse. I didn't go to see him. I didn't know when it started, but perhaps after experiencing life and death on the operating table, I really let go of Ethan completely. This man had truly uprooted himself from my heart, leaving no trace behind. After all, life is precious. In the remaining days, I just wanted to make the most of my time and not let my heart go to waste. 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 Heart go to waste.